are saying this is coming from the outside because obviously in accepting a new name, Greece has now agreed to not veto FYROM into these international organizations, including NATO and the European Union. A third section here refers to, so Articles 3, 4, and 6 talk about territorial integrity. This is another issue which Greece kind of demanded during the first internal court that was established in the 90s. The irredentist policies of FYROM, their history books, the appropriation of ancient history in Greece threatened Greece's territorial integrity. So this is what this section does here. It basically states that each side will respect the other side's territorial integrity. Nothing much else here. Also, if you look on the right-hand side, this focuses on irredentist statements. That the other sides will not get involved in propaganda, whether it's public or private. We'll try to kind of stop these hostilities. Another section of the agreement refers to history, basically dividing the history into two segments. So this is Article 7. The text stipulates a distinct difference between Slavic culture and Hellenic culture. So it states a clear delineation between what is, I guess, Slavic history and Hellenic history. But what's interesting here is that, well, on the Greece side, there is an emphasis on Hellenic civilization. There is no emphasis that, the other side, FYROM, is referred to as Slavic history. This is kind of implied rather than placed in the document itself. This section also recognizes the official language of FYROM as Macedonian, and that it's part of a South Slavic language. Oh, and that it's not related to Hellenic civilization, which I'm not sure why they have to put that there because it's evident in itself. Article 8 deals with cultural symbols. What's interesting here is kind of number 2 under the Greece section, where it says that the second party will review the status of monuments, public buildings, and infrastructure, and how they might appropriate ancient Greek culture. Now it says that it talks about reviewing, but it doesn't really say what they're going to do afterwards. It's more about, they're talking about, we'll see what we'll do with these statues and so forth. There's also an important section here on the right-hand side of a joint interdisciplinary committee of experts on historic, archaeological, and educational matters. So they're saying that they can, that they want to create a mechanism to kind of review how history is being taught, how historic symbols are being used in each country, but it doesn't really give these committees any real power. So it's there, but doesn't really tell us much what they can do. Here it talks about school books, how these also have to be part of this review, and how these committees should review how school books are use history, and that any kind of historic works that promote irredentist or revisionist histories should be removed or replaced. This was also important, and this is, again, highlighting that the external pressures that were felt on the Greek government, and I guess FYROM as well. So this deals with opening markets and investments in both areas. Basically saying that Greece will open its borders, allowing FYROM to use its roads, railways, ports, and so forth for free trade. Nothing new here, and what's already happening with the EU. This goes in line with a lot of the neoliberal politics in the region. So, in conclusion, where this argument fails most, I think, is in the process, and subsequently its ability to gain popular support. The government has been accused of a lack of transparency and with disregarding any public consultation in the negotiation process. This, coupled with a high degree of secrecy in the efforts to keep the oppositions informed on what is happening in the negotiations, has fostered feelings of distrust. The appeasement of the Syriza government in 2015 to the Troika after a landmark referendum in which 62% rejected the EU-backed austerity plan has damaged the legitimacy of the current government. The population's sense of betrayal is exemplified with the government's selling of public assets, the migration of youth, increased austerity, and economic stagnation. The Macedonian name issue at its heart reflects not only the selling out of Hellenic identity, but highlights how politics of the country have historically ignored ordinary citizens. The Tsipras and Zaev governments are both endorsed by neoliberalism and Western interests in the region. And as such, the agreement can be perceived as the outcome of external American and EU pressures, rather than a reflection of the people's will. To force such an agreement will raise risks on future contestations. Because of the actions of the government, the agreement has some polls suggesting a 60 to 70% disapproval in Greece. While I believe an agreement is important to stabilize the region and to quell threats from escalating Albanian nationalist movements in Kosovo, all parties of interest need to be involved at all levels, in particular academia, churches, the media, and again, all government levels that have an interest. Maximum transparency must be a prerequisite for any agreement so that the government builds public confidence. So what I hope to have achieved today was at least to get people interested in politics and to be motivated to become informed, to look at broader impacts of politics, and to question civic institutions and processes. The recent renaming or suggestions to rename the statue of Warrior on the Horse to Alexander, with new plates emphasizing friendship and cooperation between distinct Hellenic and Slavic people, but both a part of a shared history, gives us insight into where this agreement is heading. So this is what Zaev has suggested. So one of the agreements was to look and review on how statues are being used. And Zaev suggested that we see here in the middle of the Alexander the Great statue, which was called Warrior on the Horse, will actually be changed to Alexander. And it will highlight that this represents a friendship between both nations. That's what they're claiming. So it does give us insight on how it might be used, right? And that's kind of one of these examples that have recently happened. So that's the end. I guess we can open. Let's see. Yeah.
One thing, thank you very much, first of all, for that wonderful presentation. As we move to questions, let's please keep in mind, and I'll say it in both languages, if we can please keep in mind, speak one at a time, be respectful, and follow the same rules that we would anywhere else in terms of a discussion, so that we can keep it fair and fair for everyone, just by raising your hand, and Chris will be able to point to you, and we can go that way, okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, so as it is, even when their flag was changed, when it was proven back that it was the Viking and it was a Greek symbol, they changed their flag, but they still disrespected the Greeks by continuously using the Star Vigina. It's evident even at Pine Hills. I see all of these Vigina flags. Even in all of their referendums, they show the Greek Vigina flag. So even if this passes and they say that yes, it is Greek and whatnot, they're going to still continue to spread that those are like their maps and that it's theirs.
Yeah, that's one of the issues here. It's like what are the mechanisms that will control this, right? And one of them is that they said they're going to create this joint committee of historians and archaeologists that will kind of reform the history books. But again, you know, what authority do they have to do that? We don't know, right? That's part of the problem.
And the thing is, with them, they have the Sloveni, they have groups, like they have the United Macedonian Diaspora, they have Generation Macedonia. So they've started all of these associations and organizations where they're educating their youth and they're coming together. So I think it's important that the Greek side of it, they come together and we educate Greeks on what the stance is and all of these things.
Well, according to this agreement, the government should disband these groups.
Okay.
Or should just kind of avow them and say that these don't speak for us. But again, you know, are they going to do that? Yeah.
Let me start. As you study this, is there a possibility that the whole thing could be cancelled?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, it hasn't passed yet, right? And there is a lot of opposition. It could go to elections, and then from there, right? Both can go to elections, and it could be an election issue.
Well, there is a problem. I heard that the government is, the Minister of External Affairs was telling that he may pass it, even though if Kamenos wins, that he has the votes to capacity with 151 votes.
And this adds to the problem as well, right? So why is the government trying to rush this in? You know, and that raises questions for us. You know, why are they rushing it?
Well, I hope we fight to stop it. That's all.
Yeah.
It's not a question, it's just like more like a statement. I just wanted to say something. Like throughout the years,
There's the microphone. Here.
my problem.
Here you go.
But we can't hear you.
We can repeat it.
It's not a question, it's more like a statement. Throughout the years, since 1700 or whatever, they keep calling it Macedonia, Macedonia. As a nation, as Greeks, that used to be Greek land, one of the 6 kingdoms of Greece. Macedonia, Thebaean, Mykonos, kingdoms. The name alone, all these countries, all these years, they try to take over, they want to rule, they want to politically, whatever, they want the land. But the name alone is Macedonia. It's Greek. It's one of the Greek kingdoms. We should fight and have it back, all of it. But no politician, no Greek politician ever loved the country and never went after what was his own to begin with. And Macedonian, Alexander the Great was there before Christ, before those Slavs appeared. They were not there. So we should fight for it and have all of it back. It belongs to Greece. They're just fooling people. That's what I believe.
Yeah.
They're just fooling Greeks, they're fooling everybody. As I said, it's a statement.
Yeah.
It's Macedonia. The
And
name
it is, you know, the issue does bring a lot of emotion, right?
It's
So that's,
Macedonia, it's Greek land. These people didn't exist when Alexander the Great was there. It's Macedonia. It is ours.
yeah.
Hi, my name is Moses Chrysos, and thank you for the presentation tonight. Brought me back to University of Toronto in the 70s. One of the questions that I have in my mind is regarding the international approach of people like ourselves in the States,